Olá, galera! Nesse vídeo, você vai acompanhar uma simulação criada especialmente para quem quer treinar a escuta e a pronúncia do inglês. A história é sobre um jovem de 28 anos chamado Daniel. Ele é brasileiro, mora em São Paulo e está fazendo sua primeira viagem internacional. Durante o vídeo, você vai ouvir o Daniel contando essa experiência. Tudo em inglês, com frases simples, claras e em um ritmo ideal para você repetir e praticar junto. O objetivo aqui é te ajudar a melhorar sua pronúncia, ampliar seu vocabulário e se acostumar com a estrutura do inglês real, usado em situações do dia a dia, como aeroporto, hotel, passeios turísticos e muito mais. Então, fica à vontade para pausar, repetir quantas vezes quiser e usar esse conteúdo como um treino completo. Agora, sem mais enrolação, bora acompanhar a história do Daniel. My first trip abroad.
My name is Daniel. I'm 28 years old. I live in São Paulo, Brazil. Last month, I traveled abroad for the first time. I went to London, in the United Kingdom.
Arrival.
I arrived at Heathrow Airport in the morning. The flight was long, but comfortable. At immigration, the officer asked, "Why are you visiting the UK?" I answered, "I'm here on vacation." He looked at my passport and said, "Enjoy your trip."
First days.
I stayed in a small hotel near Hyde Park. The staff were friendly and helpful. On the first day, I walked around the city. I saw Big Ben, the London Eye, and Buckingham Palace. I took many pictures with my phone.
Food and culture.
I tried fish and chips. It was delicious. I also drank English tea in the afternoon. Every day I learned new things about British culture.
Common problem.
One night, I got lost. My phone battery died. I asked a woman on the street, "Excuse me, how do I get to Oxford Street?" She smiled and said, "Just walk straight and turn left at the traffic light." I thanked her and followed her directions.
New friendships.
At the hotel, I met a guy from Italy. His name was Marco. We spoke in English and went sightseeing together. It was great to practice English with someone.
Last days.
On the last day, I bought some souvenirs. I got a t-shirt, a keychain, and a small red bus. I packed my bags and went to the airport early. The trip was amazing. I want to travel more in the future.
Exploring London, Part 2.
On the second day, I woke up early. The weather was cold, but the sky was clear. I had breakfast at the hotel. I ate toast, eggs, and bacon. I also had orange juice and a cup of coffee. After breakfast, I took the subway, or the tube as they call it in London. I went to the British Museum. The entrance was free, and the museum was huge. I saw ancient Egyptian artifacts, Greek statues, and Roman coins. I spent almost 3 hours there. Then I walked to a nearby restaurant for lunch. I sat at a table by the window and ordered a steak sandwich. The waiter asked, "What would you like to drink?" I said, "Just water, please." The food was good and the service was fast.
Shopping and chatting with a salesperson.
Later that day, I visited Oxford Street. It was full of stores and people. I went into a clothing shop and looked for a jacket. A store clerk came to me and said, "Can I help you find something?" I said, "Yes, I need a warm jacket." He showed me a few options. I tried one on and looked in the mirror. It was perfect. I asked, "How much is it?" He said, "It's 75 pounds. I bought the jacket and thanked him.
Bus ride and conversation with driver.
That evening, I took one of the famous red double-decker buses. I sat on the top floor, right at the front. The view was amazing. At one stop, I asked the driver, "Excuse me, does this bus go to Tower Bridge?" He said, "Yes, stay on for 5 more stops." I said, "Thank you," and went back to my seat. When I saw the Tower Bridge, I felt excited. It was even more beautiful than in the pictures. I took photos and just stood there, looking at the river.
Dinner and chat with waiter.
At night, I found a small restaurant near my hotel. It was quiet and cozy. I sat down and looked at the menu. A young waiter came to my table and said, "Good evening. Are you ready to order?" I said, "Yes, I'll have the grilled chicken with vegetables." He replied, "Great choice. Anything to drink?" I said, "A glass of red wine, please." While I waited, he asked, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Brazil." He smiled and said, "Welcome to London. I hope you're enjoying the city." I said, "Yes, I love it here. It's my first time."
Museum of Modern Art. Next day.
The next morning, I went to the Tate Modern Museum. It's one of the most famous modern art museums in the world. The building was huge and full of interesting pieces. Some artworks were beautiful, others were strange. I didn't really understand them. I saw a painting that looked like just a red square. I stood in front of it and thought, "What does this mean?" A woman next to me said, "Sometimes, art is about how it makes you feel." I smiled and said, "That makes sense."
Going to the supermarket.
After the museum, I went to a local supermarket. I needed some snacks and water. I grabbed a basket and walked through the aisles. I picked up bananas, a bottle of water, some cookies, and a sandwich. At the checkout, the cashier said, "Do you have a loyalty card?" I said, "No, I'm just visiting." She smiled and said, "That's okay. Your total is £6.50. I paid with my card and thanked her.
On the subway. Rush hour.
That evening, I took the subway again. This time it was rush hour. The train was full of people. Everyone looked tired and quiet. I stood near the door, holding the pole. A man bumped into me and said, "Sorry, mate." I said, "No problem." A few stops later, a seat became available. I sat down and checked the map on my phone. I didn't want to miss my stop.
Funny situation. Confusion with the language.
Later that night, I went to a small bakery. I wanted to buy a muffin and a coffee. I said, "Can I have a muffin and a coffee, please?" The woman looked confused. She said, "A what?" I repeated, "A muffin. You know the little cake?" She laughed and said, "Oh, a muffin." I laughed too. I said, "Sorry, my accent is still learning." She smiled and said, "No worries, your English is good."
Last day. Airport and reflection.
On my last day, I packed my suitcase. I checked out of the hotel and took a taxi to the airport. The driver asked me, "How was your trip?" I said, "It was amazing. I saw so much and practiced a lot of English." At the airport, I went through security. I sat by the gate, waiting for my flight. I looked at my photos and smiled. This trip was more than just tourism. It was a big step in my life. I felt proud. I spoke English with strangers, asked questions, and understood directions. When the plane took off, I looked out the window. I said to myself, "I'll be back. And next time, I'll speak even better English."
Conclusion: back home.
After a long flight, I arrived back home in Brazil. It was warm and sunny. I felt happy, but also a little tired. I missed London already. At home, I looked at my suitcase full of memories. Souvenirs, photos, and stories. Each item reminded me of a moment, a place, a smile, a lesson. I sat on my bed and thought about the whole trip. 1 week in another country, speaking another language, living new experiences. I remembered the people I met, the questions I asked, the mistakes I made, and how much I learned. This trip changed something inside me. I realized I can do more than I thought. I just need courage, curiosity, and a little English. From now on, I will keep learning. I will practice every day. I will speak without fear. Because every sentence is a step. Every mistake is a lesson. And every effort brings me closer to fluency. If I could travel to another country and speak English, you can too. Believe in yourself. Practice every day. And never stop learning. This is just the beginning.
E essa foi a história do Daniel em sua primeira viagem ao exterior. Espero que você tenha conseguido praticar bastante sua escuta e, principalmente, sua pronúncia em inglês. Esse tipo de simulação com frases curtas e situações reais é uma forma muito eficaz de internalizar o idioma de forma natural. Se você gostou do conteúdo, deixa seu like e se inscreve no canal para não perder os próximos vídeos. E comenta aqui embaixo o que você achou da história ou se você tem alguma sugestão de tema para o próximo vídeo. E aproveitando, se você vai viajar ou quer se preparar de verdade para uma viagem internacional, a INP preparou um e-book com 500 frases em inglês essenciais para viajar, todas com a pronúncia correta. É um material completo e direto ao ponto para você usar no aeroporto, hotel, restaurante, imigração e muito mais. O link está aqui na descrição. Confere lá e garante o seu. Valeu por assistir até aqui. E lembre-se, quanto mais você pratica, mais perto fica da fluência. See you in the next video.